Good morning. I'm Kirsten Howe with Absolute Trust Counsel. I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to share some information with you today that I think will be very helpful. I've got a couple of topics I want to cover, but before I get to that, I want to invite you to stay till the end. I'm going to have some free resources to share with you. I also have a special coronavirus shelter in place offer that I'm going to make, and then we're going to answer your questions at the very end. So stick around. All right, the first a couple of topics. I'm going to talk about some scams that we are seeing in the coronavirus environment, and how we're going to talk about what you need to do to protect yourself and your family from those kinds of things. And then the second thing is, just yesterday, the IRS came out with a little bit more information about those $1,200 economic impact checks that we're all waiting for. And so I wanted to share some of that information with you and make sure that you understood exactly what you need to do in order to get that money as quickly as you can. All right, so let's get started. We'll start with talking about the scams first. Unfortunately, every crisis creates opportunity. It creates good opportunity and bad opportunity, and the coronavirus is no different. So there are people out there in the world, and there always will be, who will use a crisis like this to their advantage and take advantage of other people. We've been hearing about these, a couple of different sort of categories of scams. The first one is like a sales scam. You know, somebody is trying to sell you something coronavirus related, and it's a scam. So we've been hearing reports of people selling home testing kits for the coronavirus. Those are not real. There aren't testing kits out there in the world. All of the testing kits are being sent to hospitals, sent to doctors. Governments are scrambling to get as many testing kits as they can. There aren't testing kits out there, so don't buy one. People are, of course, trying to sell coronavirus cures. There's not a coronavirus cure yet that I'm aware of. Just be very skeptical. And then sort of related to these two types of scams are the people who are trying to get you to invest in their company that makes coronavirus cures or is going to launch a coronavirus cure. You know, you got to get in on the ground floor. This is a great investment opportunity. You'll triple your money overnight. So just, you know, those kinds of scams, if it's too good to be true, if it sounds too good to be true, probably it is. Just take another look at it. The second category of scams that we're seeing is what I call the family scam. And you probably have heard of this in other contexts. It goes something like the phone rings and the senior citizen gets up and answers the phone, and on the other end of the line, there's a very young, frantic voice saying, "Grandma, it's Johnny. I'm in jail in Italy, and I need you to wire me some money to bail me out." And the grandma, of course, responds very, very emotionally. You know, she's concerned about her grandson Johnny and being in a foreign jail. So she quickly takes care of that and sends the money, and then later discovers that none of that was true. And it seems kind of funny, but she doesn't even necessarily go through the mental process of, do I even have a grandson named Johnny? And is Johnny actually traveling in Italy? I mean, is any of that even possibly true? So these kinds of things happen because they're very urgent. There's an urgency created. And what we're seeing now is these things are happening with a little coronavirus twist on them. So the call might be, "Grandma, it's Johnny. I'm in jail because I crashed my car and I hit two people and they're in the hospital. And the reason I crashed my car is because my phone rang when I was driving. I picked it up because I thought it was my doctor calling with my coronavirus test results." So they put somehow they work in a little coronavirus spin, and that makes it, number one, more believable, you know, that specificity. And number two, more urgent. So grandma's hearing this, and she, quickly goes, gets the money, and hands it off to a courier or whatever it is she needs to do. And these kinds of scams, when it's happening to a senior, that's elder financial abuse, and we've been seeing that for a long time. The reason that seniors tend to be more vulnerable to these kinds of things, I mean, any one of us could be scammed. I'm not sitting here pretending that I'm so special, but seniors tend to be more vulnerable because first of all, they have money. If you called up a 25-year-old and said, I need you to send me $10,000 to bail me out of jail, there's nothing to fear there. They don't have the $10,000. But seniors who've been working all their lives and saving their money, they do. So they're good marks. They tend to be more trusting. They were raised in another time period when things were simpler and we trusted each other. They also, as a group, often can be more isolated. If you're living alone and you don't have regular daily contact with, coworkers because you're retired, you don't have anybody to bounce these things off of. When you hang up that phone after Johnny, your grandson, called you, you don't have anybody to turn to and say, hey, does this sound right to you? So you just go ahead and do it. So that isolation can really work against our seniors. And the other thing, and this is just the reality, is that oftentimes as we get older, our mental capacity diminishes. And so that, of course, makes seniors just that much more vulnerable. So what I would say to you is there are two, I think, really important things that you can do and should do to protect yourself if you're the senior, or protect your family member if you have a senior family member. And the first one is stay in touch. If you know a senior who lives alone, reach out to them and be a regular resource for them. Let them know that you're there, that you want to hear what they have to say. Or if you're the senior who feels kind of isolated, start reaching out. Find people. Don't be alone. Don't stay home alone with nothing. I mean, stay home now. We got a social distance, but do what you have to do to stay connected. And the second thing, and this is really important, is you need to have a plan in place that will enable a trusted friend or a trusted family member to step in and take over for you. If you are starting to have this mental capacity decline, you want somebody who can legally step in and start managing things for you so that things like this can't happen to you. So what am I talking about? A power of attorney. Every one of us over the age of 18 needs to have a power of attorney that allows somebody that we trust to step in and take over when things start going badly for us. Most of us also would have a trust, and that would do the same thing. It would enable somebody to step in when we're not managing things very well for ourselves. So that's what I do. I want to direct you to our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com. We have a whole page of resources just on the topic of incapacity planning. And so if you go to absolutetrustcounsel.com, on the resources tab, you click on that, at the very bottom, it says incapacity planning, and there are videos, articles, all kinds of stuff, podcast episodes. Just go, I invite you to check that out. Before I leave the topic of scams, my first topic, I just want to talk about a scam that I haven't heard about yet, but I know I will. And if I haven't heard about it, it's just because I haven't gone looking for it. There's a whole bunch of different IRS type scams that you might have heard about, and they kind of go like this. The phone rings and somebody picks up the phone, and the person on the other end says, this is so-and-so with the IRS. You have a past due tax bill and you need to pay it today. Otherwise, we are going to put a lien on your house or your bank account or whatever it is. We're going to take some drastic action. You need to clear this up right now. And so then the person on the phone goes and gets their credit card and pays this tax bill. So what I'm going to say is true. It's always been true, and it probably always will be true. The IRS doesn't call people on the phone. That's just, that's not how they work. You're never going to get a call like that. I'm bringing this up now because this now segues into my second topic, which is the $1,200 economic impact check that we are all waiting for, and that's going to be administered through the Department of Treasury through the IRS. So I anticipate that we're going to get people who get phone calls saying, this is so-and-so with the IRS, we want to direct deposit your $1,200, so we need all your bank account information. That's not going to happen. So don't give your bank account information out. Don't give any information out to someone who says they're calling from the IRS. So yesterday, as I said, the IRS did release some new information. They're slowly getting up to speed on this $1,200 check that we're all waiting for. So I want to share with you what I know so that you can do what you need to do to make sure you get your $1,200 as soon as possible. So the first thing is what they said yesterday, and there was some ambiguity before they cleared this up. If you're receiving Social Security, the IRS is direct, they already have your bank information. You get your Social Security by direct deposit right into your bank account. So they're going to use that information, and your $1,200 is going to show up in that bank account. So you're set. You don't need to do anything. If you filed a tax return, either for 2018 or 2019, most of us probably haven't filed our 2019 yet because it's only April 2nd, and plus they just gave us a big extension. But if you did, on the tax return, if you were owed a refund, you might have told the IRS, I want you to send my refund to this bank account. So on the 2018 return, it's on line 20. On the first page, it's down here at the bottom. And for the 2019 return, if you did file that, it's line 21. So I encourage you to check your most recently filed tax return and just see. Maybe you already gave the IRS your bank account information, and if you did, you're set. Now, if you haven't done either of those things, you're not receiving Social Security, and you never gave the IRS your bank account information, they are telling us that they are going to have something available to us on their website that will enable us to share our bank information with them. So that's not there yet, it's not ready yet, but they are telling us that they will have it. And what you need to do is watch for that. So you're going to go to irs.gov, that's their website, but you're going to go to irs.gov/coronavirus, and they're updating that. There's new information on there all the time, so keep your eye on that. The last thing I would say about that is if you didn't give them your bank information and you don't want them to have your bank information, but you still want your check, they will mail you a paper check if they don't have bank information. But I encourage you to just make sure they have the right address. Make sure that on your most recent tax return, the address you used is your current address. And if it's not, you can always change your address with the IRS. Again, go to their website, irs.gov, and there's a change of address form. It's form 8822, and that's all you need to do. So you'll change your address and they'll send your check to the right address. Okay, so I'm done with that topic, but I did want to just talk a little bit more about planning. I am an estate planning lawyer, and I just talked to you about how important it is to do some incapacity planning to protect yourself, protect your family from scams, but it's just as important to plan for our deaths, and that's the other thing that I do. I help people plan for your death, and this is a time when we really need to take that seriously. This is really unfortunate, but we are going to see people getting sick, and we're going to see people dying, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And when people get sick, very sick with the coronavirus, it happens very quickly. They go from having a fever to in the ICU in just a matter of hours sometimes. And unlike with other disease processes in other times, we don't often have a lot of time. First of all, when someone has a cancer diagnosis, they might have a month, they might have 6 months, they might have 10 years before anything really terrible will happen. So they still have some time to get some estate planning done. When you get a coronavirus diagnosis, you might have just hours or a day. And if you end up in the hospital, nobody's going to be able to come and visit you. They're not letting people into the hospital. I've gone to many, many hospitals, many nursing facilities to help clients with their estate planning. We do that all the time, but we're not going to be able to do that now. So what I'm saying is we don't have time to procrastinate anymore. You need to take this seriously. And so you just do. And there's no more time to procrastinate. So I sometimes wonder what the problems are that cause people to procrastinate. And I think a lot of it has to do with they just don't know what to expect. So what to expect, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 2 weeks to do an estate plan in normal circumstances. We can expedite that if we have to. I've done an estate plan complete from beginning to end. I met the client at 9 in the morning and he was walking away at 4 in the afternoon with an estate plan. So it can be expedited. The other thing is people are worried about how much it will cost. So what I referred to in the beginning here at my coronavirus shelter-in-place special offer, I'm offering to do a complete, comprehensive estate plan during the time of our shelter-in-place order. My pricing is going to be as followed: $2,500 for a single person, $2,950 for a married couple, and the vast majority of my clients will fit into those estate plans. If your situation is very complicated or you have a lot of rental property, you have a special needs child, you own a business, it might be more, but most of you can fit into that. So now you have the information and it's so easy to find out, is that me? Will that work for me? You can call us, 925-943-2740. You can go to our website, and that's absolutetrustcounsel.com. Go to the Contact Us page, or on our website, we have a calendaring little tool, and you can schedule an appointment, and we'll talk to you, and we'll figure it out. So no more procrastination. Okay, now I promised that I would take questions, so I'm going to do that now. And let's see. My first question. My mom has named me in her power of attorney, but how do I prove that it's time for me to step in and start handling things for her? Okay, that is such a good question. So there's a few things. Again, it depends. In the power of attorney itself, it will tell us, it'll give us some guidance about that. So some powers of attorney are granted immediately, meaning if I am giving you my power of attorney, you right away, the day I sign it, you have the power to step in and start helping me. A lot of powers of attorney are not immediate. They're what we call springing. And if they're springing, meaning there's some event that has to occur before my agent has the power I want them to have. If they're springing, we need to read the document and figure out what's going to spring that power of attorney. So the most common springing mechanism is the document itself will say, if two doctors in writing say that this person can no longer manage their own affairs, then the other person is legally permitted to step in. So that's the most common, but not all powers of attorney are the same. So what you need to do is read the power of attorney and just see what your mom's power of attorney says and go through those mechanisms. So if you have one that says two doctors, what you're going to do is you're going to take your mom to 2 different doctors and ask them, can they please write a letter on their doctor letterhead that says exactly what you need it to say. Okay. I hope that answered your question, and good luck with that. That can sometimes be very challenging for families. So I wish you the best of luck. Okay. My next question. A client asks, what can we do if someone is taking advantage of a senior and they don't have a trust or a power of attorney? We think our dad's caregiver is using an ATM card to get cash for herself. Okay. Okay, so there's a few different things. We always want to start with the simplest. What can we do? There might be some practical thing we can do. First of all, if that caregiver works for an agency, you got to call the agency and let them know. If you have the ability to fire the caregiver, get rid of the caregiver, separate the caregiver from your parent, do that. That might not be possible, but that would be the first step. Sometimes you can just do something really practical, like take the ATM card away and hide it, and don't let your dad have it. There might be things like that, but barring anything like that where you can actually step in and put a stop to things by doing something practical, without a power of attorney or a trust, what's most likely going to happen, the only way that you can really protect your parent is by filing a conservatorship petition. And that means going to probate court, getting yourself appointed by the court as your parent's conservator. And that way you now have all the power and your parent doesn't have the power. Your parent can't give away money. Your parent won't have an ATM card. You know, you'll be taking all of that away legally. It's not great. It's very expensive and it's unpleasant. But sometimes that's all we can do. And so you need to explore that as a possibility. Let's see. Oh, I see Susie is here. Didn't have a question, but she's nice to see you there. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I think that we're at the end of the Q&A, but if I didn't answer your question, or if you had a question that you didn't really want to ask in this forum, and I understand that, please go ahead and email us. You can email us on our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com. And I don't like to always be so negative, you know, talking about, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, it's really terrible. And things are terrible right now, but I did want to leave you with something a little more positive. So I'm just going to share this with you. Begging for some good news. Sorry. Did you deliver? After reading those replies and the incredibly charming story. I'm fumbling with this. The actor and director John Krasinski has started recording an episode of what he calls Some Good News. So you know him probably as Jim Halpert on The Office. And so I'm just going to show this to you. It's called Some Good News. You go to YouTube and just go Some Good News or John Krasinski, and you'll find it. And it's only 15 minutes long. It's really cute, but it's just positive stories that are coming out in this coronavirus environment. So take a look at that. Check out our website. There's lots of free resources. I really appreciate you. You can see I'm happy and relieved this is almost over. I really appreciate you being here today with me, and I hope you got something out of it. We're here to help you. We're working through this. We're working remotely. We're getting estate plans done, even though our clients are not leaving their homes. So don't procrastinate, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.